Hope in Shadows, Chapter 15, Together Again, by Stephen Little. My Little Pony and all associated characters are copyright by Hasbro. Lying on a bed in the hospital wing of the palace, Kieran woke slowly, clutching his head.
Okay, I don't know who thought it would be funny to drop an anvil on my head, but when I get my claws on them...
You dropped that anvil on your own head, Celestia interrupted. Kieran looked up to see Celestia's beautiful face twisted into a scowl.
I can explain,
he said, holding up a claw. Really? You can explain why you absconded with my sister-in-law? I hope so, because Luna is quite upset. I never would have thought Twilight's the type to cheat on my sister. How could you, Kieran?
It's nothing like that. I have no interest in Twilight outside of the academic area. I just borrowed her so I could...
He looked up and noticed her smiling, one of her knowing grins.
I hate you. You know that?
Celestia couldn't contain her laughter any longer. The look on your face was priceless, she shouted. The princess was laughing so hard, tears were flowing down her cheeks. Kieran bounded off the bed and began to tickle her mercilessly.
You want a laugh? I'll give you a laugh,
he said with a smile on his face. Kieran seemed to instinctively know where her ticklish spots were and exploited all of them. Stop, I can't breathe, she pleaded. A cough came from the door, loud enough to get their attention. If you two are finished fooling around, there's a whole room full of ponies out here waiting to see Kieran. I suggest you compose yourselves, Luna said as she turned and left the room. Kieran bashfully got off Celestia.
Sorry about that. I don't know what came over me. My apologies.
No, there's nothing to apologize for. I'm just happy you were able to touch me without blushing. Kieran's face lit up in a vibrant blush. Oh dear, I spoke too soon. Kieran, I know what you did, and I'm very proud of you for returning the parts you took from those dragons. Twilight told me why you did it, and I'm both honored and humbled by it. Celestia wrapped her front leg around Kieran and embraced him tightly. I just want you to know that even if you can't remember all the time we spent together, I still love you, and I'm willing to wait for however long it takes for you to regain your memories. If you ever want to talk, about how things used to be, please ask. She broke the embrace, allowing him to breathe a little easier.
Thank you, Celeste. I think I'll take you up on that offer, but for now I think we should see what the others want,
he said, trying to smooth down the fur on his chest. Jato poked his head through the door to see Kieran and Princess Celestia sitting next to each other, talking softly. The princess was first to notice his presence. Hello there, Jato. Don't be timid. It's quite all right for you and every pony to come in now. The light blue Pegasus pulled his head back and shouted into the other room. It's okay, guys. They're not fooling around anymore. Rainbow Dash lightly cuffed her son in the back of the head as she pushed him into the room, Honey following close behind. Jato, that's no way to talk about the princess, Dash reprimanded. Hey, Kieran, princess, how's it going?
Fine, thank you, Mrs. Cloud,
Kieran said. Dash sighed. Just call me Rainbow Dash. Why does every pony call me Mrs. Cloud? You didn't complain so much when you took my name, Soren said. Sorry, babe. It just makes me sound old.
Well, Rainbow, I never thought you'd be the first one to start worrying about your age,
Applejack said as she and her family entered the room, followed by Big Macintosh, Fluttershy, and the two young children, Chaser and Toffee. Well, I don't think you look old at all, Rainbow, Fluttershy commented. Kieran, what are you doing out of bed, young man? You march right back under those covers this instant. The Draconicus was taken aback by the yellow Pegasus and her reprimanding tone.
But I feel fine,
he argued. The day you get a medical degree, you can decide what's best. Until then, I want you back in bed. It's only been a few hours since the princess and Twilight brought you back, and that's not nearly enough time for you to have completely recovered. Kieran looked at Celestia, hoping for some sort of reprieve, but found only her familiar smile. I think it's best if you do as Dr. Apple says. Wearily, he dragged himself back into bed as yet more ponies arrived. Sweetie Belle, Scootaloo, Applebloom, and Garnet walked into the room, looking for a place to sit, but eventually settled to the ground at the foot of his bed.
"Hey, Garnet, how's it going?"
"I'm fine, but what about you? Twilight told us all what you did, and for the life of me I can't understand it," the purple unicorn said. Kirin suddenly found the coverlet over him fascinating as he refused to look at any pony.
"It's complicated."
"What's that supposed to mean?" Jato asked in his usual blunt way. "Oh, come on, every pony. Give the poor guy a break," Dawn said as she, Dinky, Tootsie Flute, and her brother entered the now crowded room. "I'm sure he had a very good reason for what he did, and I don't think he needs to explain it to us. If Aunt Celestia is okay with it, then it can't be all that bad." Kirin looked out over the sea of smiling faces in his room.
"Why are all of you here? Shouldn't you be preparing for the wedding?"
"Mom's feeling better now, so we decided to wait till next Monday, since Princess Cadence and Shining Armor are going to be in the area and have expressed an interest in attending the ceremony," Garnet informed them.
"And we're here to see how you're doing, and since it looks like you're doing okay, then we can have a party, but not here, because this room is just way too small for all the ponies that are going to want to celebrate you being back to your old self, instead of your Discord self, because every pony was afraid of him, but since you're back to your old self, no pony will be afraid of you anymore."
"Pinky, dear, you're making every pony tired," Braybon said, his hooves clamped tightly on Pinky's muzzle. "I think a party would be delightful, Pinky, but I think we should let Kirin rest for a while. Why don't the rest of you get situated in the guest quarters, and I'll be down momentarily to help organize the accommodations." As the ponies left the room, Tootsie Flute leaned close to her cold friend. "You don't have to find a room for me. I'll just stay with Dusk." Luna physically separated the two with her magic. "I don't think so, and that goes double for you as well, Dinky and Dawn." Jato and Honey snickered quietly to themselves, but Luna, finely tuned hearing, was able to pick it up. "As for you soon-to-be newlyweds, just be happy Celestia and I do not invoke the age-old tradition of celibacy till marriage." "Dear, that doesn't really apply in this case," Twilight told her. "I can make it retroactive," Luna insisted as she and Twilight walked out the room, leaving Celestia alone with Kirin once again. Celestia sat down next to Kirin's bed and casually smoothed out the wrinkles in the covers next to her. "Kirin, I have a great deal of business to attend to in Canterlot over the next few days, but I want you to remember what I said earlier. I'm willing to wait for you as long as it takes, and until then, I want you to take it easy," she said, trying to keep her tears at bay. "I know you want to get your life back as soon as possible, but promise me you won't force it. Just let it come back on its own. You never know what could trigger a memory, a scent, a picture, even the lack of something you're used to, anything."
"I promise, Celeste, though, if you're too weary from the endless prattle with the nobility, I'd like to talk about the old days later,"
the Draconicus requested. Celestia couldn't help but chuckle softly. "Of course, dear, anything you'd like," she said, giving him one of her radiant smiles. "I'll return later this evening, and if you're feeling up to it, we can talk over dinner." Celestia was gone at court, and Kirin was trying to sleep as best he could, but the constant stream of ponies that would stick their head into the room to check on him was keeping him from getting the rest he needed. After the sixth interruption, Kirin had finally given up. Slowly getting out of bed, he tested the strength of his legs.
"I don't know what Fluttershy was talking about. I feel fine,"
he said to himself. Walking over to the door, he cautiously poked his head out to find the upper tier of the residence deserted. With a sigh of relief, he felt his stomach growl loudly.
"Yes, I agree. Food,"
he said to his stomach. Kirin wandered around the castle for a bit, but soon found himself outside the kitchen. Just as he was about to walk through the door, a dark violet aura enveloped him and pulled him to a darkened alcove. "You know, my mothers and my aunt would be pretty upset to see you out of bed right now."
"Prince Dusk, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were here,"
he said quickly. "Don't worry about it. I know what it's like being cooped up. I once broke a wing, and I couldn't leave the house for a month. Either way, why are you wandering around the castle? I wouldn't want to be in your hooves if Fluttershy caught you. She can be scary," Dusk informed him. "Hey, Dusk, what's going on here? You're not planning any pranks with my friend here, are you?" Garnet asked on his way to the kitchen. "No, just wondering why he's tempting fate by disobeying Fluttershy," Dusk informed him. Kiran's stomach growled loudly again. Ah, well, that would explain it. I was coming down for a snack myself. Come on, Kiran, let's get something to eat. Dusk, why don't you join us? Garnet asked as he pushed his way into the kitchen. Dusk casually followed the two into the kitchen, waving to the chef. Hi, Max. Some pony call for the guards. A walking stomach is attacking the kitchens, Max Goldsberg announced to the kitchen staff. I can't help that I have a high metabolism, Dusk said in his defense over the rowdy laughter of the kitchen staff. Okay, boys and girls, we've had our fun. Why don't you all take a break for a while, but be back in 2 hours so we can finish setting this place up proper. I want the first real dinner in the castle to be something special. The staff smiled happily and quickly filed out before their boss found something for them to do instead. So, Dusk, who are your two friends here? Max, this is Garnet, the local sheriff, and this is Aunt Celestia's old cold friend, Kiran, Dusk explained. Kiran was blushing furiously.
Dusk, the only thing I am right now is hungry. Your aunt and I are not involved.
Not right now, but you just wait. The princesses have a way of getting what they want, Garnet told him. Now, don't make their majesties sound too tyrannical. I've worked for the royal tyrants, let me tell you, and I've never been so happy as when I'm cooking for the princesses, he said, placing a tray of cheese and sliced apples in front of the trio. What about me and Dawn? Dusk asked in a tone of false offense. You two are terrors and would eat your family out of house and home if given the chance, but I can't fault you for it. Princess Twilight was the same way at your age, but then she was just a normal unicorn.
Chef Goldsberg, exactly how long have you been cooking for the royal family?
Just Max will do. Let me think. I've been Princess Celestia's head chef for almost 40 years, he said. I remember it clearly. I was 16 and had won a cooking contest in Canterlot. The princess loved my food so much she gave me the head chef on the spot. The old stallion that ran the kitchen wasn't too happy about it, but nevertheless hoofed over his ladle, and I've been cooking for the royal family ever since.
It sounds like you've had a good life, Max. I wish I could say the same,
Kiran said, a little disheartened. Sorry, Max. Kiran here has been having some memory problems. Perhaps we should let you in on the whole story, Dusk said. It took a while, but the old stallion sat there patiently as Dusk and Garnet told them the story. Every now and then Kiran would chime in to correct a fact or two, but for the most part he remained silent. Dusk grabbed the last piece of cheese as he finished the tale. That's about it, or at least what our parents told us, Dusk concluded. Wow, you and Princess Celestia, Max remarked, still trying to take it all in. Well, that would explain why she was in such a good mood this morning. I haven't seen her like that since Princess Luna came back to live at the palace. As far as your memory is concerned, I'm just an old chef and not very knowledgeable about such things, but if there's one thing I know, it is, if any of us on her staff was having problems, she'd do anything she could to help. I can only imagine the lengths she'll go to help you. Yeah, Kiran, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I'm sure in time you'll start to remember stuff, Dusk told him, trying to reassure the Draconicus.
Well, I've already started remembering a few things,
Kiran admitted, trying to put up a good front. You see? Give it some time, and I'm sure more will come back. After all, once you've learned something, you never really forget it. You just have to be patient, or at least that's what my father always told me, Garnet told him. You know, Kiran, when Dawn and I were little, we didn't go to school like other ponies. We were taught by our mothers and Aunt Celestia because they were afraid of how some of the other foals were to treat us. Either way, we used to get into all sorts of trouble playing tricks on the guards and such. I can attest to that, Max interrupted. Like I was saying, there was one time we were caught putting a whoopee cushion under the seat cushion of the royal throne. Aunt Celestia wasn't pleased, to say the least, and instead of punishing us, she told us a story about a funny friend of hers and how mischievous he was. She told us how he was always getting into some sort of trouble and had the bad habit of getting her to join in. She told us that many ponies thought that he was just an odd-looking troublemaker, but that in all truth he had a heart bigger than any pony she knew, Dusk told him. She told us that we would try to be like her friend, and that while games and little pranks were fun, we should try to be kind and understanding with our fellow ponies, instead of pulling pranks on them all the time. Then she helped us put whoopee cushions under the seat cushions of the noble pony seats, he said with a big smile. Max and Garnet couldn't help but let out loud laughs of their own. The purple unicorn casually glanced at the clock and was a little shocked at the time. Karen, if I were you, I'd get back to your bed. We've been talking for hours, and the princess usually closes court for the day right about now. I shudder to think what would happen if you're caught out of your room when she returns. Karen was yawning lightly, feeling a bit tired.
I'm not a child. If I wish to be up and about, I will, and no pony, not even a princess, is going to tell me otherwise,
he said before promptly passing out and falling to the floor in a heap. I'll take him back to bed. I can avoid Fluttershy and my parents more easily, Dusk said as he vanished from the room with Karen. Having tucked the Jocanicus into bed, Dusk could feel the presence of his aunt approach and teleported out of the room before she arrived. With a blinding white flash, Princess Celestia appeared in the room. Upon her entrance, she could feel the displacement of another teleporting Aricorn. The Iquin ruler smiled with knowledge that her family was taking an active interest in her little Jocanicus. Walking over to the bed, she gently nudged the crossbreed. Karen, honey, are you awake? Karen slowly opened his eyes and looked up at the almost glowing white pony hovering above him.
Hey there,
he said dreamily.
How was court?
Insufferable as always, but the thought of waiting for me at home kept me going, she said with a smile. They weren't happy when I told them about my new housing arrangements. I wish I had the old castle rebuilt years ago. The look on their faces would have been worth it.
You didn't tell them about me, did you?
He asked, a little nervous. No pony asked, and I didn't feel like volunteering anything. Even if they did, it's none of their business, she told him. You're not worried about them, are you?
A little,
he admitted. Karen, let me reassure you. These nobles are much different from the ones my mother showed you. The lesson of Proudwing was learned well by the equestrian nobility, but if you wish it, I will keep you a secret until you feel otherwise, she reassured him. How are you feeling?
I'm okay. I had a talk with Garnet and your nephew today. It was quite informative,
he told her with a loud yawn.
I'm sorry, Celeste. I'm still a little tired, I guess.
It's quite all right. Why don't you get some rest, and I'll check on you later, she suggested. Before she could respond, his eyes closed as he fell into a blissful slumber. Celestia leaned over and kissed his forehead. Sleep well, darling. Over the remainder of that week, Celestia would spend her day at the palace in Canterlot and her evenings with Kiran as he recovered, talking about the times they spent together and the times they had. During the days while Celestia was away, Kiran spent most of his time talking with Princess Luna and Princess Twilight, trying to get a better insight into the mare that was taking up more and more of his life. Finally, after all the waiting, the day of the wedding had finally arrived. Resting and recuperated, Kiran was looking forward to his friend's big day. Having bathed and brushed himself out, Kiran met up with Celestia outside the entry to the main gallery, a room used for various social events. Walking in, they noticed a small control panel and 3 microphones set up on a table near the door. Trotting over, she and Kiran noticed 2 older mares and a younger mare with a black mane and tail with a white coat. On her flank was a cutie mark that resembled the white and black keys of a piano. "Hello, you 3. It's been much too long since we last visited," Celestia said. "Chroma, is that you? The last time I saw you, you were only a little bigger than one of your mother's records." The 2 older mares, one with an electric blue mane and tail, the other was grey with a raven black mane, bowed out of courtesy to their ruler. The later of the 2 nudged the younger mare, reminding her to bow to the princess. The wedding was supposed to be small. Only their closest family and friends would be in attendance. Vinyl, Octavia, and their daughter Chromatica were no exception, so they didn't insist on broadcasting the wedding on their radio network. "Princess, so good to see you again," Octavia said. "Yeah, we don't get together often enough. By the way, love the new digs. The acoustics here is awesome," Vinyl said with her usual enthusiasm. "Who's the stud?" Chroma asked, a dreamy look in her eyes. "Chroma!" Octavia shouted in shock. "It's not polite to address individuals in that manner."
It's quite all right. I've been called worse things. My name is Karen, my dear, and I am Princess,
Acquaintance? Octavia asked. Lover? Vinyl asked. Jester, Kieran said, placing his face in the palm of his right claw. Actually, I think the term consort best describes our relationship, but the term hasn't been used in generations. So, what's it mean? Chroma asked. Well, I'll let you find out for yourself, dear, Celestia said. We should be taking our seats. The guests of honor will be arriving soon, and we don't want to get in your way. Have a good show, you three. The three ponies waved goodbye as Celestia and Kieran took their seats up front. Sitting to their right was Spike and Rarity. Rarity was sipping on a ruby-colored drink.
Good afternoon, Rarity. How is the baby today?
Kieran asked. Fine. The foal's been moving around a lot, but I've gotten used to it.
How many of those have you had today?
He asked, indicating the ruby tonic she was drinking. 5, and most likely she'll want one with dinner and one before bed, Spike answered for her. Shouldn't you be helping Garnet and Sweetie Belle get ready? Rarity asked with a bit of a scowl on her face. Yeah, I really should get going. Besides, it looks like Scoot and Jato are getting into it. I'll be back after a bit. Spike got up and walked towards the door to the dressing room where Scootaloo and Jato were arguing.
I told you those tonics should only be drank when you're feeling weak or first thing in the morning. You do know that this will probably affect the pelt color of the child? Kieran asked.
No, I think you omitted that fact. Is there anything I can do to make sure it doesn't? Rarity asked.
Cut back on the tonics for one. That means one in the morning and one only when you feel weak. Also, you might want to use a blend of gems to get the nutrients you need. That should counteract all the red pigment,
Kieran informed her. Across the gallery, Spike approached the two arguing ponies. Hey, you guys, come on now. What's all this? Spike asked. Scoot won't ask Dad to walk her down the aisle, Jato said. Why not, Scootaloo? I thought you liked Soren. I do, really. He's been as much a dad to me as you've been to Belle. It's just, I'm afraid he'll say no, she confessed rather sheepishly. Fine, I'll do it then, Jato said as he headed for the door. No, you won't, Jato, Spike told him. It's not right for the groom to see the bride before the wedding. Now, you go to the other room and get dressed. You too, Scoot. Both of you should have been dressed and ready to go by now. I'll be in shortly. As soon as they entered the room across the hall, Spike walked in on the brides. Come on now, Spike. That ain't the rule, so you can't tell Garnet what Applebloom looks like in her dress, Applejack said. Actually, I'm looking for Soren. Have you seen him? He asked.
Yeah, he was here earlier, but he went out with Rainbow a little while ago,
Pinky told him. Thanks, and Applebloom, I think you look pretty in your sister's dress. You too, sweetie. I know your mother is very happy for you right now. If it wasn't so hard for her to get around, she'd be back here helping, Spike said. Applebloom blushed. Thanks, Spike.
Thanks, Daddy. Tell Mom I love her too, and that I understand.
I sure will. The dragon turned and left the room, leaving the three brides to finish their preparations. Heading for the front of the gallery, he found Rainbow Dash and Soren talking to Luna and Twilight. Hey, Soren, got a minute? Sure thing, Spike. What's going on? It's about Scootaloo. She wanted to know if you'd walk her down the aisle today, but she's too afraid to ask. For some reason, she's afraid you'd tell her no. Soren looked down and shook his head. I thought I'd solved that problem years ago. Where is she? She's in there with Garnet and Jato getting dressed, Spike informed him. Thanks, Spike. I'll take care of this. Spike returned to the bride's room, while Soren went to address his adopted daughter's issues. Soren cautiously poked his head into the dressing room and saw Garnet and Jato putting the finishing touches on their suits. He walked in just as Jato had finished tying Honey's red sash around his neck like a scarf. Son, you aren't seriously going to wear your goggles and scarf to your own wedding, are you? What's wrong with it? You gave me these goggles and I promised Honey I'd never take the scarf off unless I was taking the shower or she took it off. Plus, that top hat doesn't look at all that good on me. He's right, Soren. Those hats may have been good for you guys, but they just don't feel right. You should have seen my mother when I told her I was just going to wear my uniform for the ceremony. She nearly hit the roof. Heck, even Scoot isn't wearing the hat. She has that silver coronet the princess brought for her. Didn't she wear something like that in the procession with Luna and Twilight during their wedding? Soren asked. It's exactly the same, the tunic too. They've just been sized up a bit, Scootaloo said as she walked in from the enchanted room. What's up, Soren? Hey guys, can I talk to Scootaloo alone for a moment? I think Princess Twilight wanted to talk to you before the wedding. The others left the room, leaving them alone. Scoots, what's going on? Spike told me that you thought I wouldn't walk you down the aisle. Why? All you had to do was ask. Scootaloo suddenly became very interested in her front hooves. You know, because I'm not your real daughter. The orange mare could feel the tears welling up in her eyes. She sniffed loudly as they started to fall. Soren hugged her tightly. Hey now, what's all this about? He said in a caring, fatherly tone. You remember when I adopted you after Rainbow and I got married? Do you remember what I told you back then? Scootaloo nodded her head. You said that I'd never have to call you Daddy, but I'd always be there for you, no matter what, and I still mean it. You may not be my daughter by blood, but I don't know any stallion who wouldn't be proud to have a mare like you for a daughter. Scootaloo hugged him tightly. Thanks, Dad. Sometimes I guess I just need to know that you and Dash are always going to be there. No problem, Squirt. Hey, why are we sitting here crying? Let's go get you married off. Would you still like me to walk you down? Yeah, that would be awesome, Scootaloo said, giving him another hug. Good afternoon, colts and fillies, and welcome to a special edition to the Vinyl Scratch Show. I'm Chroma, your favorite two-toned head turner, and joining me today are the two old nags I call my parents, Vinyl and Octavia. Ha 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 ha! Thanks for the entrance there, kiddo. You're a chip off the old turntable, Vinyl said. Really, dear, I wish you wouldn't imitate your mom like that. I raised you with better manners. You're right, Mother, but I'm sure with time and therapy I'll forget them. Well, that brings you two out of the stallion headquarters today. Well, we just finished closing the deal on a new radio station out in Coltsville, Octavia said before being cut off. Boring, Chroma interrupted. Yeah, Tavy, lighten up. We own almost half the radio stations in Equestria, and soon... Old, Chroma interrupted again. Now just wait a minute there, ankle-biter, Vinyl said. Accordion, Chroma shouted. Now that's hitting below the belt, Vinyl sulked. Seriously, you guys, the kids of your best friends are getting married and you're talking about merger acquisitions. What happened to you two? You guys used to be cool. Hey, Squirt, we're still cool, the white unicorn assured her daughter. Indeed, and don't think you're too old to get grounded. You're only 15, and that means you have to do what we tell you. Now move over, young lady, we're taking over, Octavia stated. You go, babe. Wait to lay down the law, Vinyl shouted. Yes, well, I do have my moments, she said, smiling. Now, as Chroma was saying, we're here to celebrate the wedding of the children of some dear, dear friends. Who do we have tying the knot today, Vinyl? Would you believe it? Princess Luna's private guard is getting married today. That's right, the little fillies that escorted her down the aisle during her own wedding are getting married today. Applebloom, who couldn't make it to the princess's wedding, is here now, and she's getting married to Garnet, the local sheriff and the son of Spike and Rarity. How about Sweetie Belle? Who knew that after a long career as a stage performer she'd end up marrying her choreographer and manager, Scootaloo? Octavia said. Apparently the two of them had kept their relationship a secret in fears that it might hurt her career. And then there's Honey. She's the daughter of Pinkie Pie, the ultimate party pony, and Brayburn, Chroma said. She's getting married to the son of Rainbow Dash and Soren. I'm so jealous of Honey. Jato is so cute. Sorry, sweetheart, Octavia said. You're going to have to keep looking. Speaking of looking, the guests are starting to come in. I understand that only close friends and family will be in attendance today. That's right. The couples decided to keep it small this time. Now the royal family is already here, along with the mere friends of Dawn and Dusk. You heard it. It seems Dawn took an after her mother, and a good choice she made too, if you ask me, Vinyl said. Ponies are filling in now. Let's see. Who's coming in first? We have Princess Cadence, Prince Shining Armor, and their son Aiden. All right, finally an eligible hottie, Chroma practically shouted, which caused the prince to blush. Chromatica Melody Philharmonica. A wedding is not a place for you to pick up stallions, Octavia reprimanded her. Now that's a family drama's over. It looks like Big Mac and Fluttershy are next with their cold chaser. He's so adorable. Right behind them is Lyra and Bonbon Heartstrings, Vinyl continued. They're followed by Applejack, Caramel, and the equally adorable filly Toffee, Octavia said. Next are Pinkie Pie, Rainbow Dash, followed by a very pregnant Ditzy Hoofs and her husband Julian Hoofs, followed by Zakura and I don't believe it. Believe it, Octy, that's Honey Who, Rainbow's mother, and Clyde, Pinkie's father, walking down to sit with their families, hoof in hoof. But they're so old, Chroma objected. Just goes to show how you kiddo, love knows no age, Vinyl informed her daughter. Ah, here we go. The grooms sort of are coming in. Here comes Garnet, dressed in his sheriff's uniform. Nothing fancy, but still quite sharp-looking. Next is Scootaloo. It looked like she's dressed in a blue tunic and a white woven cotton belt around her waist. This looks like the same outfit she wore during Princess Luna's wedding, except this time the tunic isn't made of homespun cloth. It looks like blue satin with a silver trim. Sitting atop her head is a silver coronet with a purple amethyst. Now we get to see Jato. He's dressed in a golden vest with a black overcoat and a red satin scarf tied around his neck. Instead of the traditional top hat, he's wearing a pair of goggles. A little weird, but he's still so cute, Chroma commented. The brides are going to be coming out soon. I need to get to the stage. I'm sure Frederic and the others are waiting, Octavia said as she ran towards the raised bandstand in the corner. Chroma climbed out into the vacant chair so she didn't have to stand any more. I guess it's just you and me, Mom. Guess so, sweetie. I can hear your mother starting to play, so that means here come the brides. Who's first, Squirt? Vinyl asked. Okay, here comes Honey being escorted by her father Brayburn. Honey is wearing a gown that looks like a cross between a wedding dress and a cocktail dress. The whole thing is layered but cut short to show off her legs. I like it. So did I when her mother Pinkie wore it. From what I hear, that apple didn't fall far from the tree, Vinyl commented. Next up we have Apple Bloom being escorted by her brother Big Macintosh. The dress she's wearing is of a simple but elegant design that, if I remember correctly, is the same dress her sister Applejack wore during her wedding. She's wearing the same silver coronet with purple amethyst that Scootaloo has. That leaves only Sweetie Belle, and here she comes walking down the aisle with some pony I don't know. Who is that, Mom? That's Reginald Filigree, Sweetie Belle's grandfather. That guy had a hard go of things recently. The sad incident with his now ex-wife Davinia, that I won't bore you all with. You all read the papers like I do. Either way, because of that hack, he got to miss out on walking his daughter down the aisle, so Spike and Belle graciously asked him to do it this time. Sweetie Belle is wearing the exact same outfit as Scootaloo, down to the silver coronet on her head. Apparently the coronet is a mark of office for them, showing their position as royal guard for Princess Twilight and Princess Luna. I think that's every pony. Yup, here comes Mother. I'm gonna let you guys finish up, if it's okay with you. I'm going to go sit with Dusk and Dawn. Knock yourself out, honey, but behave yourself. I will, she replied. Octavia returned to the table. Everything okay? Yeah, hey, how did we ever make such a great kid? Vinyl asked her. Octavia kissed her wife. She comes from good stock. Well, it seems Twilight and Luna are going to be conducting the ceremonies today, so let's listen in. Luna and Twilight approached the podium. Both of the ponies were dressed in their royal finery and expertly groomed. Family and guests, we are gathered here to witness the marriage of the ponies before us, Luna said. We've watched these 6 grow from foals to fillies and colts, to mares and stallions. We bore witness to their trials and tribulations, their joys and their triumphs, and now we are all here for them as they begin a new chapter in their life together, Twilight espoused. While Twilight and Luna continued with the opening proceedings, Kieran leaned to his left and whispered in Celestia's ear.
Celeste, may I ask you a question?
Of course, she whispered back.
If the nasty business with Proudwing hadn't happened at all those years ago, do you think,
Kieran, dear, what is it? She asked a little concerned.
Do you think that we would be the 2 ponies up there?
He asked. I don't know, she said, a tear building in her eye. We never really talked about it. I knew that sooner or later the issue would come up, but I never got the chance to say anything. Kieran put a claw on her shoulder.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you sad.
No, it's okay. You had every right to ask that question. I just wasn't expecting it, she said. Celestia looked up to see nearly everyone in the room watching her. Luna leaned against the podium, smiling at her sister and Kieran. Tia, unless you're going to drag him up here and take part in the ceremony, would you mind if I continued? I'm sorry, please forgive us. We'll be quiet. Please continue, she said, blushing from embarrassment. Luna cleared her throat. Thank you. Now then, where was I? Oh yes, mares, do you take your stallions to have and to hold? Do you promise to honor and obey him in sickness and health, for rich or poor, for however long you both shall live? All the mares, in the exception of Scootaloo, answered yes in unison. Stallions, do you take your mares to have and to hold, to promise to honor and obey her in sickness and health, for rich or for poor, for however long you both shall live? Twilight asked them. All the stallions and Scootaloo also answered yes as well. Then, by the power vested in us by my sister, Princess Celestia, Luna started, we pronounce you married. You may kiss your brides, Twilight finished. The brides in this case practically jumped their new spouses, and each planted a kiss on their mouths. The wings of Jato and Scootaloo practically shot straight up from their backs, causing them much embarrassment, but it only made the small crowd cheer louder. If you'll all join us in the main dining room, the reception will begin as soon as we're all there, Princess Luna announced. Wow, that wasn't as grand as the last wedding for our friends, but then we don't have the entirety of Ponyville here either. Okay, kiddo, your mother and me have to finish settings up in the dining room. You gonna be okay handling the rest of the show? Sure, Mom. Just remember to tune my piano before my part comes up. I'd hate to hit a sour note, Chroma said. Don't worry about that thing, dear. I'll make sure it's tuned myself, Octavia told her daughter. Thanks, Mother, she said, smiling. This is gonna be so cool. In the main dining room, Pinky had left her party cannon at home and instead decided to use her new wedding howitzer. Brightly colored streamers decorated the multitude of alabaster pillars, while gold, silver, and white balloons filled the ceiling and hung on strings around the room. White tablecloths with gold-plated table settings graced all the tables. The long main table itself had been moved against the wall to act as a buffet, while smaller tables were brought in for the ponies to dine on. Music, conversation, and merriment was the theme of the evening. All but one lone mare had been thoroughly enjoying themselves throughout the night. Bored. Dear Celestia, I wish something exciting would happen, Chroma blurted out after starting another set of music for the listeners at home. Something I can help you with? Princess Celestia asked the young mare. Princess, I'm sorry, I didn't mean... It's quite all right, my dear. It's not the first time I've heard my name taken in vain. Why are you here all by yourself? Do you not wish to join the festivities? Well, of course I do, but my parents let me host the show. They said I had to be responsible and make sure things didn't go wrong. After provided I could do it, they'd give me the show to me completely, so here I am, alone and bored, out of my brain, Chroma explained. Let me tell you something. I actually appointed Octavia to help your mother when the station was founded. I knew those two would do great things together once Octavia loosened up a bit, and Vinyl took things a little more seriously. You should have heard their first few shows. They were near disasters. Celestia smiled at the giggling mare. Don't let them try to fool you. I think you've handled tonight wonderfully. Thank you, Princess, she said. Hey, kiddo, everything cool over there? Vinyl asked. Yeah, Mom, I was just chatting with the princess. She told me about your first couple of shows with Mother. How much did you tell her, Princess? Vinyl asked. Oh, nothing too embarrassing. I'll leave you two to talk. It seems Luna and Twilight are trying to get my attention, Celestia said as she walked back to the main table. Speaking of which, it's time for the big show, Chroma. You should probably get over there. Your mother is waiting for you. I'll take over here. You did a great job, honey, Vinyl said. Thanks, Mom. Chroma took her place at the piano, Octavia at her cello. Between her and Chroma stood Frederique, who gave up the piano for a violin that night. Lyra sat next to Harpo, her lyre, and his harp at the ready. In between them was all a small stool empty waiting for its occupant. Vinyl walked out to the dance floor. Hey, every pony, how we doing tonight? She was greeted with a wave of cheers and applause. That bad, huh? Well, I have a treat for all of you. Princess Luna and Princess Twilight have clued me into a very obscure and very, very old tradition concerning parties and celebrations at the palace. It seems that during celebrations where dancing is involved, the king and queen would start the dance off and others would join in. Now, since we don't have a king or queen, Princess Luna told me it falls to whichever of them that is currently sitting on the throne. And that means Princess Celestia. You need to grab a partner and get out here on the floor. Celestia stared daggers at her sister. Hey, don't look at me like that. Mother wrote that one herself. Blame her, Luna said. But I'm not even... Seeing the embarrassment and shock on the princess's face, Kirin felt a compulsion to help her out. Mustering all of his courage, he walked up and extended a wing to her.
If it's all right, may I have this first dance?
Celestia looked up into his shining red eyes and smiled. This and every dance after, she said softly. Celestia extended her right wing over his and slowly walked with him out to the dance floor. Luna trotted over to the bandstand and took her place on the seat. The music began slowly. Octavia started off with Harpo dropping in, shortly after accompanied by Lyra. Then the music came to a stop, and the sweetest of notes sprang into the air. Celestia whipped her head towards the band to find Luna playing her instrument, publicly for the first time in over 1,000 years. Chroma waited patiently at the piano to accompany the princess after her solo. Many ponies thought it was odd for Luna, a pony of such beauty, majesty, and grace, to play something as simple as a penny whistle, but, with the exception of the instrument's inventor, no pony played it better than her. It did not take her long before Celestia recognized the song. She smiled with tears of happiness in her eyes, then turned back to Kirin. They both stood on their back legs. Kirin took her right hoof in his left claw and placed his right on the small of her back, while she put her left on his right side, just under his arm. Leaning to the left, Kirin led her in a round waltz, stepping ever so gently to make sure his hoofs did not touch hers. As they danced, their eyes met and never deviated. All of this seemed so familiar to the Draconicus, but he could not remember why. What was odder to him was how he was even able to dance in the first place. It all seemed like instinct, like he had done this many times before. Every step was perfect, every movement carefully measured. Staring into Celestia's smiling face, it slowly became back to him. It was her. She had taught him to dance like this. It was all her. She had taught him everything about her world. The culture, manners, etiquette, everything he learned from her. He remembered that was when he fell in love with her. Not when she saved him from the mob, not when she personally looked after him while he healed, but the time they spent together, the lessons in magic, the lessons of court. Every day when she could sneak out of the palace, she would be there with him, teaching him everything he wanted to know. He had a thirst for knowledge, and she had a drive to teach. It was long after she had confessed her love for him, and she went from teaching him to grooming him for this, to take his place by her side. He remembered it all, every moment he ever shared with her, and it all became so clear to him. Kirin leaned forward and kissed her, pressing his lips against hers. Celestia, lost in the moment, did not protest, and when he broke the embrace, he looked into those amazing magenta eyes of hers and told her,
"I remember you."
Excusing themselves politely, Celestia and Kirin walked out of the palace to the moonlit garden in back, leaving the others to continue the wedding reception inside. Sitting next to a manicured pond surrounded by bluebells and midnight violets, she hugged Kirin tightly. "When did you remember?"
"While we were dancing. That song, I don't know, it sounded familiar."
"It should. Luna wrote that song for us a long time ago, when she found out we had become a couple. I was a little shocked she still remembered it, or that she could still play her penny whistle.
And the dancing seemed like second nature to me, even though I couldn't remember where I learned it from. That's when I started to remember. The lessons, the teaching, everything. It all came back to me like a tidal wave crashing on the shore."
"You always were fairly poetic," Celestia said, smiling.
"Celeste, do you remember what you used to do? Whenever things seemed bad, like an extra long winter or a bad harvest, you'd sing to the ponies to lift their spirit, to let them know that you were still there and would not let them go hungry or homeless. I remember you asked me to join you one time, and I refused. If it's okay with you, I'd like to share that with you.
What? Right now?
Yes, right now, right here. I remember that I always put things off. There would always be a tomorrow, and I'd do it then. I don't want to wait anymore, Celeste. Please, for me?
You're right. We've both waited long enough. Celestia lowered her glowing horn to mingle with the two on his head, and suddenly the background of the garden seemed to fade away, leaving the two of them sitting by the flower-ringed moonlit pond. Celestia began to sing. Heart beats fast, colors and premises. How to be brave, how can I laugh when I'm afraid to fall? But watching you stand alone, all of my doubt suddenly goes away somehow. One step closer, I have died every day waiting for you. Darling, don't be afraid. I have loved you for 1,000 years. I'll love you for 1,000 more. Kieran picked up the next verse.
Time stands still, beauty in all she is. I will be brave. I will not let anything take her away, what's standing in front of me. Every breath, every hour has come to this. I have died every day waiting for you. Darling, don't be afraid. I have loved you for 1,000 years. I'll love you for 1,000 more.
As the two of them sang, every pony in Equestria, every mare, stallion and foal, from the lowest sanitation pony to the highest echelons of high society, viewed in their minds and in their dreams the princess and Kieran singing their song for each other and for all the ponies in the land. Back in the main dining room, come dance hall, everything had come to halt. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Every pony witnessed what was possibly the deepest, most sincere, most genuine expression of pure love ever shared between two ponies, and it made their own hearts sing with them. Wow, really, I love this chapter. I mean, okay, Kieran was Discord, but he has done everything to become Kieran again, and I like it. I really like it. And what I like the most is that he actually remembers that he is, that he was in love or is in love with Celestia. And wow, I can't stop to think about this. And even so, Celestia said something about Luna not meddling into her affair with Kieran. If you read it, or listen to my reading of this, she did meddle. Just remember when Vinyl Scratch told Celestia that she had to open the dance and that she was told so by Princess Luna. Even so that Queen Faust may have written that rule, Luna would not have to inform Vinyl Scratch of that tradition. So she did meddle there, and that brings us back to Luna the matchmaker. She just can't help it, I think. And, well, in this were two songs again. Once when the two of them began dancing, but that video had been removed, and then when Kieran and Celestia sang together, but according to YouTube, that YouTube account has been closed because of copyright infringement. Well, can't help it. I would have really liked to comment on the music if it was fitting or not, but I can't really. You see, I can't say anything because I can't listen to the songs. Okay, that said, I really liked this, and wow, the two of them are cool. Yeah, okay. And okay, there's one more thing I wanted to say. I must apologize for my many slip-ups in the previous chapter, because I really had a bad day today. And even when I recorded this one, in the first, 10 minutes or so, you don't know how many mistakes I made, how often I had to stop, cut something out and start again, because, bad day. It went so far that I actually wanted to delete the whole thing and record it tomorrow, but then I thought, okay, it's not that bad, and I hope it isn't. But the previous one I really apologize for, because I listened to it before I recorded this, and I was shocked. I was really shocked. I think I'll redo it, maybe. And, well, sincerely yours, Visual Pony.